It's estimated that 400,000 Americans will die this year from cancer, many in pain that doctors here find difficult to control. Next month, a bill will be introduced in Congress, a bill that proposes a solution to that pain by legalizing the use of heroin by American doctors in the care of terminal cancer. Heroin was banned from medical practice in the United States back in 1924, and most other countries have since followed suit. But in Britain, it has never been banned. Any British doctor is allowed to prescribe heroin for a variety of ailments, sometimes just to cure a cough. And some of the most unlikely people are the pushers.
Let me tell you how it will be. There's one for you, and 19 for me. Cause I'm the tax man. Yes, I'm the tax man. That man is rough. Now dig this. Should 5% appear too small? Just be thankful I don't take it all. Tax man is something else, isn't it? Cause I'm the tax man. Yes, I'm the tax man. Now dig this. If you drive a truck, I'll tax the street. And if you try to fix it, I'll tax your seat. If you get too cold, I'll tax the heat. And if you take a walk, and this is awful, I'll tax your feet. Cause I'm the tax man. He's awful. Now don't ask me what it's for. If you don't want to pay, you can pay some more. Cause I'm the tax man. Yes, I'm the tax man. Now dig this. Now my advice for those who die, this is awful. Beware the pennies on your eyes. Cause I'm the tax man. Yes, I'm the tax man. And you're working for me. No one but me. Tax man is rough. He can come and get you anytime he wanna. Would you believe he can come and get your old lady? That tax man is a flip.
This is St. Joseph's Hospice in London, run by the Sisters of Charity. It's a place where people who are terminally ill, usually with cancer, can be cared for in their final days after everything else has been done. But if you think that the nuns here comfort the dying with just a hymn and a prayer, then think again. Once Mass is over, Sister Marcella sets off on her drug round. Sometimes she gives her patients morphine, but more often the drug she uses is heroin, here in liquid form. Most of the heroin used medically in Britain is in the care of terminal cancer, and hospices like this have led the way in prescribing heroin in a manner no doctor dared to prescribe before. According to Sister Marcella, if a patient's pain breaks through, the doctors here will simply increase the dose of heroin, and doses can vary from 5 milligrams to 100 times that amount, and that's a lot of heroin. Now, most of these people, when they come to you here at St. Joseph's, are they in pain when they come to you?
Yes, some of them very severe pain, very, very severe pain. I've often gone out to the ambulance and it would be crying the whole way up with pain. And we'd have to get the doctor straight away to try and relieve that pain. And usually it means that we give an intramuscular injection of heroin, depending on what the doctor has ordered, you know.
Have you ever had any problems here with any of your patients becoming addicted to heroin?
Never, never. No matter how much they've been on, we've never come across it.
It was here in London at St. Mary's Hospital and Medical School back in 1874 that a chemist conducting experiments mixed morphine with a variety of acids. He didn't know it at the time, but C.R. Alder-Wright had discovered one of the most effective pain relievers known to man. Alder-Wright called his new compound diamorphine. It's since come to be known as heroin. And British doctors, unlike their American counterparts, have used heroin as an effective pain reliever ever since. Do you find it better for you here, easier for you here?
Yes. I mean, I couldn't do anything at home at all. Couldn't stand in the finish. It's just too weak to do anything, you know, except cry.
Penny is 63 years old. She's taking 15 milligrams of heroin every 4 hours to control pain caused by cancer of the uterus. What's happened to the pain? Is it better now?
Oh, yes, stands better. In fact, it's not really there, I would say, now.
At all?
No.
4 weeks after we talked with her, Penny died peacefully. Since she was put on heroin, Margaret's been well enough to take up pottery.
Didn't realize I could do it so well.
She has cancer of the colon.
I feel that I'm going to fight it. That's I've taken it now. And I want to fight it and see if I can go on, you know, living a normal, ordinary life.
Margaret attends a day center attached to a hospice run by the British National Health Service. It's a kind of social club where cancer patients can do handiwork, have their hair done, and pick up the heroin they need to take home with them. That heroin comes in liquid form, in tablets or freeze-dried ampules for injection. And when it's legally manufactured like this, heroin is cheap. 20 10-milligram tablets cost about $1, the same as Britons pay for a bottle of aspirin. So how come these patients don't get addicted? Many of them are on more heroin than the average junkie would take each day for a fix. British doctors say addiction doesn't occur when the dose of heroin is carefully balanced against the amount of pain. In effect, the pain swallows the heroin, and the patient doesn't get the high an addict would get.
At first, when I started on it, it makes you a little bit dozy, but I've got over that part, I think, really. You know, I just take it as a normal daily routine and think no more about it and carry on from there, sort of thing.
And it makes your life a lot easier.
Yes, it does. Made my life much easier.
But are there other side effects to taking heroin? Medical Director Dr. Fiona Randall.
The most difficult side effect and the one that causes most discomfort is constipation, which is controllable, but you have to be very careful about it. Some people are also nauseated, but that effect tends to wear off, and some people do become drowsy, but that effect also tends to wear off. The one that never wears off and that gives us endless problems is the constipation.
Constipation?
Yes.
That's a bigger problem than addiction?
To the patients, yes.
But what happens to the patient on heroin if the pain or the cancer goes away? 4.5 years ago, Vera was diagnosed as having cancer and given 18 months to live.
We thought she was doing remarkably well, so about a year ago we reinvestigated the situation and couldn't find any trace of the disease. She was on diamorphine when she first came to us to control the pain. She's now off it.
She is off heroin.
Oh, she's off it.
Well, now, did she have problems with withdrawal?
No, she didn't have problems with withdrawal. We reduced the dose gradually. We went on reducing the dose. She didn't get the pain back, so we stopped it. And now she takes the odd paracetamol.
And no problem at all?
No problem at all.
It's been said that it's easier to make heroin than to distill a good bottle of whiskey. Well, here in Edinburgh, Scotland, they do both, side by side. Behind me is a distillery that makes scotch, and just next to it is the pharmaceutical company that makes heroin, the only legal heroin factory in Britain. For security reasons, we weren't permitted to film inside the factory. So how big is the security problem? Just how much of the heroin that's made here for medical use finds its way into the streets of Britain? The British government says there is leakage, but it's a very small amount. Nurses regularly pick up heroin from hospital pharmacies with what to American eyes hardly looks like tight security. Opponents of the move to legalize heroin in the United States fear much bigger security problems and argue that a synthetic substitute for heroin could be used instead. But British doctors say even if the entire amount of heroin manufactured for medical use was stolen tomorrow, it would be only a drop in the ocean compared with the amount of illicit heroin already available on the streets. So, do British doctors think the United States should follow their example and pass legislation that would permit the medical use of heroin? Dr. Eric Wilkes, former professor of medicine at the University of Sheffield, now runs a hospice for the terminally sick.
I cannot, with any consistency, stop colleagues using a drug that I find myself using and find it of value. So that I couldn't oppose that legislation, but I have tended to find it irritating and unhelpful in the past to have such agitation when so many American physicians are timid and inexperienced in the way they use morphine, which would help the great majority of their patients in their hour of need.
Cheers. Cheers. Is it apple? It's apple.
British doctors say that when administered by mouth, heroin has a slight edge over morphine, but there's not a lot to choose between them. The important thing is not to be afraid to prescribe either of them early, often, and in sufficiently high doses. But not all patients can tolerate oral medication, or they sometimes need a faster relief from pain that only an injection can give. And that's where heroin comes into its own. Heroin is more potent and more soluble than morphine, so high doses can be dissolved in small amounts of fluid. And that can make all the difference when you're faced with injecting an emaciated cancer patient. 4 days ago, John was in great pain, but he couldn't stop vomiting, so oral medication was out.
That feel all right?
Yeah.
Now he's getting 60 milligrams of heroin every 4 hours injected into a muscle. You feel much better?
Oh, yeah. Well, in general, no. But as regards pain, the pain which I couldn't put up with, you know, I'd say much better.
So now that pain is, as far as the pain is concerned, you feel much better?
Yes.
Because the pain is under control?
Quite gone down.
It's all right there.
Yeah.
And you want it there.
Yeah.
Heroin also makes all the difference to Janice, who has an estimated 6 months to live. Only heroin is potent and soluble enough to use in this recent invention called a syringe driver. It's a motorized gadget that releases 270 milligrams of heroin into her body over a 24-hour period. Freed from having to take medication every 4 hours, Janice is able to lead a fairly regular life. She stops only from time to time to check and see if her batteries are still working.
I've got lung cancer. In fact, I've got 3 cancers. There's one in the lung, and it's, I believe, joined to the outer lung. There's one underneath the lung, which is here, and I've got another one up here in the shoulder.
And has the pain gotten progressively worse for you?
Well, it did. It did before I went onto this. I mean, I don't know how bad the pain would be now. I mean, I've been on this syringe driver now for 6 months.
6 months ago, Janice was racked with pain in her shoulder and had difficulty breathing. Unable to keep food down, losing weight rapidly, she spent 90% of her time in bed. Did it bother you at all that you were taking heroin?
No, not really. I didn't think about it. It was controlling my pain, and that was the main thing that I was interested in.
On that heroin, Janice can once again concentrate on a game of chess. She can enjoy the company of her daughters and also play with her grandson.
If I was in pain, obviously, my attitude would be different. I wouldn't be able to sit and knit or hold a conversation with them or anything. I wouldn't be able to pick my grandchildren up. I'd have no, well, I didn't have any energy quite some time ago, but I've pulled up an awful lot since.
For Dr. Wilkes, the use of a drug like heroin is a fundamental part of medical practice. In situations where a disease is incurable, heroin makes it possible for a doctor to relieve the pain of his patients and allow them to enjoy what little time is left, even if that just means hearing again a favorite record.
We are not necessarily, as a profession, dedicated to the prolongation of life. There is something blasphemous and obscene about having corpses rotting on the end of the ventilator. And this is something you don't see over here. You don't often see it, despite the occasional exception, in the United States. But what we're into is prolonging life as independently and as comfortably and as usefully as possible, with as much purpose and dignity as possible for the patient. We don't necessarily mind whether a patient dies on Tuesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, as long as he dies easy.
What has happened to the patients we met? Margaret's dose of heroin has been increased a little as the pain in her back worsened. She still goes to the day center once a week. John's pain was controlled through the heroin injections until he died 3 weeks later. And Janice continues to live what life is left to her as normally as possible.
They're good. He loves the swing. He's smiling. He's like to this. They're good. Whee!
There are lots of times when overnight is just not fast enough.
Hello, Federal? I've got to get this to the coast today.
With Zapmail, we can get an exact copy of something clear across the country in just 2 hours from the minute you pick up the phone. Contracts, documents, drawings, whatever. Incredibly, in just 2 hours. Zapmail from Federal Express, when overnight is just not fast enough.
This is the Apple IIc personal computer. Small as it is, it can coordinate all the systems of a 50-story building. Now, you'll probably use it for everything from homework to office work, but it's good to know it's powerful enough for bigger jobs, like turning the lights off. The Apple IIc. It's a lot bigger than it looks.
Obviously, the 1985 Mercury Topaz is shaped to hold your family, but it's also shaped to use the wind to help the car hold the road. It's a shape that will move you, even when you're standing still. Topaz from Mercury.